All right, now let's make this form work. There are two methods to incorporate forms with Angular: template-driven forms and reactive forms. Template-driven forms rely heavily on two-way data and then grabbing the input. However, we can also use reactive forms. Reactive forms allow you to grab the data with built-in dependencies that come with them. The three we're going to use are FormControl, FormBuilder, and FormGroup. Let's go to our createBookComponent.ts file. We're going to add some imports. So right here, underneath my import for component and on init, I'm going to add import FormBuilder, FormGroup, and FormControl from at Angular/forms. Cool. Now we're going to go and open up our app module.ts. And we need to add some imports here too. So where we are importing our forms module, let's also import reactive forms module. And then we're also going to add it here to our import section. Nice. Now let's go back to our createBookComponent.html, and then let's scroll all the way up here to our first input, and we're going to add another attribute to it, and we're going to add a form control name equals name of book. We're going to go through and add these to all of our inputs so that they will match the name of all of them. So for author, I'll add a form control name equals author. Do the same here for genre, form control name equals genre. For the publication year, form control name equals pub year. For rating, I'll add a form control name equals rating. Nice, cool. So that's the end. That's the end of my file here. So then let's go back up to the top, and we're going to add something to our form. On the form, we're going to bind onto the property of this form called FormGroup. Notice I'm using brackets, so I'm using my my property binding here. And I'm going to set it equal to create book. And that's going to bind this entire form group here to a create book form that we're about to create here in our create book component.ts. So in here, in the parentheses for the constructor, we're going to add a private FB colon form builder. And now this allows us to use our form builder here privately and without letting it be affected directly by anything else. Anything that is private in one of these classes, one of these components, is going to be inaccessible from anywhere outside of the component. So we can just keep this private FB here totally isolated from anything on the outside. So then let's go ahead in our ng on init. Let's set up this form group. Let's add a this dot create book equals this dot FB dot group. Open up a set of parentheses and a set of curly braces. And now I'm going to start adding all of those values that are in my HTML. Here is properties in this form group. So I'm going to say name of book, colon. And we're using a colon because we're going to use that JavaScript object syntax. And we're going to set it to new form control. We need parentheses at the end here because we're going to create a new instance of the form control. And we're going to do that for every property that we have, or every input that we have in our HTML. So I'll add an author, which will also be a new form control. I'll have a genre. It's also a new form control. I'll have a pub year, which, surprise, is a new form control. And we're also going to have a rating, new form control. Awesome. So there's one thing else that we have to do, and that's that we need to define this create book before we can actually use it. So up here, underneath use button equals false, we're going to add create book. And then we're going to set its type to be form group. Cool. So let's analyze this code for a second real quick. We're going to use the .group method here of our FormBuilder, which creates a new instance of FormBuilder and grabs the values for each input via the FormControl name attribute in the HTML tags. It's then going to set the value of the form group to the entire form. Alright, our last chunk we have to do before our form officially works is to hook it up to some kind of event. Because right now we have the form control, we have the form itself, we have a form group. We're just missing an onSubmit, really. So in this HTML file, I'm going to break this form up a little bit here so it's a little more readable in a second. I'm going to add, in parentheses, this is really important. In parentheses, I'm going to add ng submit equals on create book. And I'm going to call it just like I would a normal function here. And let's analyze this line for a second here. ng submit is an event, and we can use event binding in Angular by wrapping the event with a set of parentheses. So here's my event, there are my parentheses, and then here is the action that my code should take when I'm listening to that event. Here's my event handler here, on create book. Cool. So now let's go, let's save it first. We're going to go to create book component.ts. First thing we need to do is go up here and we're going to add an array of books. So we're going to set books equals empty array. Then, underneath our ng init, let's go ahead and add on create book. So we're going to do on create book. We're going to give this method here a return type of void, so it won't be returning anything at all. And for the body of this method, we're going to add a this.books. So this this array up here, this.books, .push, this.create book, .value. Awesome. So this won't work quite just yet. We're getting close, though, I promise. We're getting close. So let's go into our create book. And down here, underneath everything for the create book, underneath the form, let's add another div called, or not called anything, but inside it we're going to add a p tag, and we're going to add books and stuff. So the problem being with this is that if we go back and look at our app, we're going to see books and stuff even if we don't have any books. And that's not very useful. So next we're going to learn how to hide this using Angular directives.